Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
It now feels like a foregone conclusion who the Titans are going to take with the top pick. Also, who has the most to prove as we head into conference championship weekend? And Tom Thibodeau needs to listen to what Mikal Bridges has to say. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
We've made it through the NFL Combine, the first week of free agency, and the draft picture starting to take some shape. Last time we talked to our pal Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans, he was confident that it would be Abdul Carter at number 1 overall, at least not a quarterback. I wonder if he's so confident today. Let's ask him. Tyler, what's the
answer is no. I am nowhere near as confident, and quite frankly, I'm confident the other way if I had to be confident in any direction.
Why is that?
Well, it's 3 main reasons at the end of the day. Number 1, it doesn't sound like the New York Giants are going to take the bait and give a deal worthy for the Tennessee Titans to drop back. So, trade back was always my preference with Abdul Carter being an option with the quarterbacks. That's not going to materialize here. I think then you go to the fact that the Tennessee Titans do need a quarterback. And the more time they've spent with Cam Ward, I think the more comfortable they are with going with him at number 1. He did his visit really, really early. Like the Titans got their main visits in super early, right after the combine. He meets with the team last Friday, and you would think that he blew them away because all of the conversation around the league now, all of the top insiders, everybody, I would expect Cam Ward to go number 1. Tennessee Titans should take Cam Ward number 1. So you have all those things. Those are the 2 big reasons. And then 3, the Titans sign a free agent quarterback, and it's Brandon Allen. You want a stat about Brandon Allen? Brandon Allen has less career passing yards than Will Levis had last season. So Brandon Allen is not a compete to be a starter quarterback. He's 33. He's played 18 games in his career. He is a pure backup. So if you go out and the only free agent quarterback that you sign is a pure backup, you're not getting the trade offers you want, and you were blown away by the guy in the meetings. Well, that's how you go from, I think it's Abdul Carter, to it's definitely Cam Ward.
I can't believe he's that old. It doesn't seem like we are that old that he could be that old, but I guess that's where we are here. The time marches on and waits for no one here. Okay, so putting that in perspective, where do you see this team right now? If it's okay, Cam Ward at number 1, what is left to address? How do you think he is set up to be in year 1? Do they care in year 1 if they win any games?
You know what? I think they do care. I think they want to see improvement. I think the Titans can't go out there and win 3 or 4 games again. I think 6 games, 7 games is kind of where you need to be to show that improvement, especially for Brian Callahan, the head coach. I think if the Titans don't get to that area and Cam Ward struggles mightily, then you probably have to move on from Brian Callahan. But I think what the Titans are doing is, quite honestly, it's similar to what the Washington Commanders did last year. They said to themselves, hey, this isn't a great roster, and we're not going to make it a great roster overnight if we're taking a quarterback high with our first pick. That's not going to happen. So what do? We take a bunch of 1-year contracts, low financial commitment contracts, and we plug these holes with veteran solid starters. Everybody the Titans have signed so far, super durable player. Dan Moore always plays. Cody Barton always plays. Kevin Zeitler always plays. Like, these guys just play. They may not be high-end starters, but they're average NFL starters, and you're not committing anything long-term in the future financially. So the Titans are like, we can't plug all the holes in the boat with long-term draft and develop guys right now. We don't have enough picks to do that. The Titans don't even have a 3rd-round pick. So if we plug some of these holes with 1-year veterans, and then we plug some of the big holes that we have, like wide receiver and edge, with some draft picks this year, and then next year when we come back around, we can fill the other holes with draft and develop guys in the draft. And now it's a 2-year rebuild, and we have our quarterback in place when we're ready to roll. I think that's the vision for the Titans. Whether it works out, and listen, I've been a Tennessee Titans guy for 26 years. Rarely has things worked out the way that they envisioned them. But you can't fault the Titans for the plan that they have right now. And in the situation they're in at the top of the draft, I think you can't pass on quarterback with everything Cam Ward brings to the table.
Is the Cam Ward piece of this, is this, hey, we're just gonna, situationship this, like, okay, well, we know we need a quarterback and he's the best one. So, I mean, I guess here we are. Like, is that what this is? Or do you buy the idea that, no, they were blown away by him. They love him, even if, hey, he might have been QB4 or QB5 in last year's draft.
Well, you know what I would say to that he may be QB4 or 5. Last year was a great draft class. Yeah. So maybe if he would have went QB4 or 5 in last year's class, he'd still be a really good quarterback. And we would be like, man,
to the playoffs. So
right, exactly. So I think that, of course, there's no way, unless we get Mike Borgonzi on here with the truth serum, to know whether this is the situationship that you described or whether they're fully bought in. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at Cam Ward as a player, he has incredible traits. And I think when you're picking a quarterback high in the draft like this, if you can get high-end college production and you can get high-end athletic traits, those are two things that you're willing to take a chance on. This isn't like Anthony Richardson, where he had 13 starts and we're betting on high-end traits. Cam Ward has played a lot of high-end college football and won a lot of high-end college football games. So, again, that kind of college career and production with the mental makeup and the competitor that he is and the arm talent, which is out of this world, he's got a very good arm, very live arm. I think that's enough to where it's not just a situationship. He's worthy to be the number one pick.
You can stay up to date all year on the Tennessee Titans by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Titans on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, we look at who needs to prove the most this weekend in men's college basketball. Before we get to that, 2 NBA stars dealing with injuries. March Madness is almost here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, even who's cutting down the nets. You got to pick a couple of those underdogs, those double-digit seeds to make it to the Sweet 16, maybe to the Elite 8, maybe even to the Final Four. You're going to get good value if you nail that. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use. And look, when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. And with conference tournament season in full swing, you can turn that $5 into $200 tonight. The ACC semifinal features arch rivals Duke and UNC meet for a shot at the conference tournament final. FanDuel has Duke favored by 8.5. Go visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoop action all tournament long. San Antonio Spurs star De'Aaron Fox will undergo season-ending surgery Tuesday to repair tendon damage in his left pinky, according to the team. Fox suffered the tendon damage during training camp in October while with the Sacramento Kings and played through the ailment all season. For the Spurs and Fox, the decision to undergo surgery now was made to expedite the healing process and to game off-season chemistry with the roster based on his recovery. I'm sure a really good NBA draft had nothing to do with this decision at all. Meanwhile, Paul George is hurt again. The Philadelphia 76ers and George are consulting with doctors this week on treatment options for his groin and knee injuries, including a possible procedure. This, according to recent reports, a decision expected early next week on the plan moving forward for Paul George, the 34-year-old who has played through groin, finger, and knee ailments this season, battling multiple injuries at the same time over the last month. According to sources, he took pain-killing injections for 5 consecutive games before the NBA All-Star break in February. Elsewhere on the court, the Bucks welcome the Lakers to Milwaukee, and even warmer welcome without LeBron James. The outcome, not so warm.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers fall 126-106 to the Bucks on the first end of a very difficult back-to-back roadie. Thursdays in Denver, and this will be a tough game under any circumstance for the Lakers, but even more so without LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, Jackson Hayes, especially since not nearly enough Lakers stepped up to fill the void. 73 combined points from Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, 29 from Luka in the first half, which almost outscored all the other remaining Lakers combined for the game. Save 10 points from Dalton Connect. No other Laker even reached 7 points. Clearly, they're going to need more production if they're going to survive during this very shorthanded period. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
And in the SEC tournament, Kentucky looked to make it out of the second round as they face Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh, Kentucky almost gave this one away at the very end due to some turnovers, some incredibly confusing officiating. As Isaac Shade points out in the live chat, the continuation call was horrible and no flagrant one for straight up pulling down Carr. You'd like to think that at some point here in the final few minutes of this game, Kentucky would have had a call go their way, like Shade points out. No, unfortunately, they did not. They had to fight through some crazy adversity outside of some turnovers, which I think partially, why don't you call a timeout, considering you have 2 timeouts left, but also it looked like Owe might have gotten fouled a couple of different times before he turned the ball over, at least the first time. Did not matter, took matters into his own hands. Kentucky raced it up the floor, and as Owe said at the end of the game when he was being interviewed by Molly McGrath, what was he told? Get downhill.
If you're like me, you're getting a little antsy to fill out those brackets. It's almost that time, but we've got the conference brackets to work out first this weekend. Going to decide a lot of how those big brackets are going to work. Conference tournaments, seedings on the line here. Isaac Shade from Locked On College Basketball joins us now. And Isaac, these weekends can make or break teams' seasons. Teams can play their way in. They can play their way off top lines. Who, for your money, has the most to prove here this weekend? Who can help their case the most? I'm thinking some bubble teams that really need to show out.
If we're starting bubble, I got to go with not only North Carolina, but the ACC itself. And here's what I mean, Peter. The Tar Heels have just been on the outside looking in all season, but they've just been slowly winning these games and put themselves in position where, as we record on Thursday evening, they are on the correct side of the bubble. I timestamp it because this thing is always moving during Champ Week, my man, and I know you know that. But the reason I also say the ACC, Peter, is because this. If the ACC only gets Duke, Louisville, Clemson into the big dance, it will be the first time since the 2000 season that the ACC only gets 3 teams in. And one of those 3 teams isn't even in the ACC anymore, being the Maryland Terrapins, right? And so Carolina really looking to make it a 4th team for the ACC. The others I would just quickly throw in at the bubble level are Texas, who has now gotten back-to-back massive wins because literally all but 2 teams in the SEC on a neutral are a quad 1 game. So Texas wins yesterday and then gets this crazy 2 overtime win over Texas A&M on Thursday. That is critical and basically only survived because the refs missed a travel on a 3 that Texas buried near the end of the first overtime. So they are thanking their lucky stars on that. Also keep an eye on 2 Mountain West teams, Boise State and Colorado State, looking to play their way in. Boise State's going to have New Mexico on Friday. Colorado State most likely going to have Utah State. I only think one of those teams gets in, so keep a big eye on the Mountain West.
All right, let's talk about maybe more at the top lines of these seeds. We know conference tournament wins can stamp number 1, number 2, number 3. Those seeds, hey, we are legit Elite 8, Final 4 type teams. But you know, you lose on a Friday, you lose on a Saturday. That can really have meaning here. And we know the top of this college basketball scene right now is pretty crowded. So who are some teams that could really help themselves, maybe more on the top end here?
Coming into Champ Week, Peter, my 1 seeds in order were Auburn, Duke, Houston, and Florida. Auburn, Houston, locked in, feel great about it. The team that has the most to prove to me, in my opinion, that I would not have said before Thursday's action is the Duke Blue Devils. Why? Let's think Cincinnati the year Kenyon Martin got hurt. They were a clear, obvious 1 seed. They get hurt. The committee changes things for them. Duke lost both, not only Cooper Flagg, but Malik Brown, their best interior defender on Thursday. He's done. He was stretchered out of the Spectrum Center. So Duke needs to come out on Friday, obliterate North Carolina, and then either Clemson or Louisville on Saturday to prove to the selection committee, even if Cooper Flagg doesn't play, even if Malik Brown doesn't play, we are good. They've got to be able to show that. And thankfully for them, they've got 2 games to still do so. And then the other is Florida. They have
wait, Isaac, before we get to the Florida,
go ahead.
Do you think they can do that? Is this Duke team that kind of team that without Cooper Flagg, that they can be that kind of team?
In the ACC tournament or in the big dance? Because that's a different answer. In the ACC tournament, they could be 75% of themselves and walk through this thing, basically. Like Duke is that talented, that deep. They've got not only the phenomenal freshmen, even aside from Cooper Flagg, we got to know about Con Knipple. We got to know about Isaiah Evans, who can bury every 3 in the book. We got to know about big man Kaman Malawach, who now is going to be even more important with Malik Brown out. But what John Shire so brilliantly did is supported and surrounded those freshmen with these upperclassmen transfers who came in and knew their role. Guys like Mason Gillis coming in from Purdue or Sion James coming over from Tulane. They have played their roles brilliantly, and Duke should absolutely be able to win the ACC, not only because of how good they are, but because of how bad the rest of the ACC is, save for, I would say, Clemson.
You can stay up to date all year on college basketball by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On College Basketball on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Tom Thibodeau. Listen to Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges had some critical comments on how Tom Thibodeau is playing his starters. While it may seem strange for a team to call out his coach, Locked On NBA host Hayes and Matt Moore believe Tibbs needs to hear it.
Because Tibbs does need to trust his bench a little bit more. Like that's been a Tibbs thing literally since he became a head coach. Like not only does he have a extremely good rotation that he can go deep into, like this is the time, right? Especially when you're in March, like you want to go deep into your bench, give your bench players. We know the rotations shrink in the playoffs. Like ease up on your starters just a little bit. Now, I know the Knicks have been going through their own thing at points in this season to where, that's going to make Tibbs want to turn it up. Brunson's out, things like that. But go into your bench. It's okay not to play your starters until they're exhausted every single game.
I think there is drama. Josh Hart's defended that guy time and time again. And now you got Mikal who comes in and is like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't do this. What I do think is interesting is I thought about this on Locked On Nuggets last night is I don't know the difference in 30 and 38. I mean, I know the difference, by the way. I did take elementary math, but most players will say that the real kind of drag is everything that goes into the game. It's not just the game. It's you come in 2 hours before and you get treatment and then pregame warm up and stretching and then pregame shoot around. And then you come back in and you do game plan and you go back out and you do layup lines and then you sit around and you wait for the anthem and then you play. And then it's like that whole process is what really exhausts guys and gets them worn out on top of the travel. So I don't know that the minutes are actually that big of a deal, except for the fact that they play in so many games. Like if they play this many minutes, but they play fewer games, I actually think that this would be a pretty smart strategy, but they don't. They play every game and they play all the minutes. They're going to break down. They just are. They're going to break down at some point. And I don't think the Knicks are good enough anyway, but they're going to break down at some point if they don't get their guys some rest. Tibbs has got to back off.
Yeah, of course he needs to hear it. But why do we have any evidence he's going to change? This is what he did in Chicago. This is what he has always done. He is just going to run his players into the ground. It's who he is. It's what he believes in. And he's even said, I think playing the minutes allows you to play the minutes. Josh Hart has echoed that. In the playoffs, that's what you need. The problem is if you're playing 40 minutes a game, every game in the regular season, you might be more likely to be hurt, might be more likely to not have your legs in the playoffs. And more to the point, it's mid-March. If the guys have been playing too many minutes by now, I'm afraid it doesn't really matter. The damage on their bodies has been done. It needed to have been managed before, not now. It's too late now. Yeah, it would help if you reined it in a little bit, Tom Thibodeau. But guys, let's be honest. He's not gonna. Think you have what it takes to beat a WNBA player off the dribble or guard them trying to score? Well, the LA Sparks want you to put your money where your mouth is. They plan to hold tryouts for male practice players next month. On April 12th at El Camino College, the Sparks will put together a male practice squad. This not an uncommon practice in women's college basketball. In fact, there was a great article last year about Caitlin Clark and the guys trying to stop her in practice. The headline, the men who practice against Caitlin Clark can't stop her either. Don't have any delusions on this one. They would probably work you. Be real. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, who will get the best path to a national title in the NCAA tournament? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.